Hebrews chapter 12. Again, welcome online audience. We know you're there. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders. Watch this now. And the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. There is a race marked out for you. How do we do this? Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. I want to talk, obviously, generally to everybody under the sound of my voice and those watching online. But specifically, I want to talk to every man in this room that's feeling like giving up. It's feeling like throwing in the towel. Maybe you feel like the pressures of life are building up and seems to be more than you can bear. These altars in the first service were full of men just like that. I have two words for you, and it's the assignment that's on my life over the next few minutes, and it's the title of this word: keep pushing. Keep pushing. Men today are facing more stress, anxiety, drama, disappointments, depression, suicidal thoughts than really anything I've ever seen in my 48 years of living. The pressures, heaviness, insecurity, fear, worry, disappointment, stress are just a few words that define man's emotions in 2022. Suicide rates among men are at an all-time high. A recent report showed that 84 men in America per week take their life. Per week. 75% of all suicides in America are men. And they went on to talk about the reason they believe for this, because men are drastically less likely to ask for help. But I just want to tell somebody at the forefront of this little talk here, your answer is not checking out. Your answer is not in the bottom of a bottle. Your answer is not in a pill. Your answer is not in a sexual fix. Your answer is not in a counselor, a drug, or a doctor. Your answer is found in Jesus. Now, you obviously would expect me to say that, being a preacher at a church on a Sunday. But I'm telling you, if I was in the gym with you, if I was at a ball game or somewhere with you, if we were out hunting or golfing or whatever, I would say the same thing. Men for years and thousands of years have tried every other way. We've exhausted every other option. And the reality is Jesus is not an option button. He's not a way. He's not even the best way. He is the only way. Keep praying. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Keep coming to church. Stay in his house. Keep reading his word. Keep paying your tithes and giving sacrificial offerings. And as you keep pushing, God will be there. If I can grow through what I go through, it will always produce a breakthrough. And so if you're stressed out or overwhelmed or discouraged about anything this morning, I want to say you're in good company. The Bible is full of godly men who experienced the same thing. The Bible says many are the afflictions of the righteous, not bad people, the righteous, but the Lord delivers them from them all. Though a righteous man falls 7 times in a day, the Lord picks him up every time. Elijah was running for his life. Now, a chapter before, he's calling down rain and fire. He's a spiritual Rambo. But a few verses later, he's hiding out in a cave, scared. A spirit of fear is on him. Why? Because of one chick that was after his life. It was a spirit of fear, a spirit of worry. Job lost everything in one day. He lost his health. He lost his wealth. He lost his family. His own wife telling him to curse God and die. Judas could have been the greatest comeback story ever. Even Judas, I thought you said godly men. Judas was godly. You can't be a disciple, one of the 12, without, he just made a wrong choice and the enemy got in. And I'm convinced he could have been the greatest comeback story that preachers preach on had he not quit on himself. And I believe Jesus, when he took his life, when Judas took his life, I believe Jesus had to go to plan B and said, well, I can't use Judas as a comeback story, so now I need Peter to deny me 3 times. And Jesus did in Peter what he would have been willing to do in Judas. Because Jesus will never give up on you, sir. Jesus will never throw in the towel on you. Jesus will never, there's one thing you'll never hear Jesus say, I'm done, he's hopeless, he's gone. You are never too far that the grace of God and the mercy and the love of Jesus can find. Well, you don't know what I did last night. You don't know who you're talking to. It really doesn't matter who I'm talking to. God said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whosoever would believe in him would not die but have eternal life. Peter denied Jesus 3 times in one night. Began to call down curses on himself. He was so stressed out and disappointed himself and depressed. But yet God brought him back from all of that and used him to preach on the day of Pentecost, and 3,000 people came to know Jesus through the sermon that Peter would preach. Why? Because he didn't give up on himself. I want to tell somebody your fight is fixed. Now, if you've been with me an amount of time at all, you've heard me say that. But it's kind of like the WCW wrestling, WWF wrestling. You know, they're out there, pandemonium. People are going crazy. They're cheering. They're, and the guys are in the ring and they're wrestling around. But, Vince McMahon is over there, the promoter. He's over there with a cigar. He's just chilling. Why? Because he's already got this person beating this person in this round or that round. He's fixed the fight. And I just want to say, we may be stressed out and worried, but your greatest promoter, Jesus, has never been taken by surprise. He's never been caught off guard. He knows exactly what you're going through. And if you just won't quit, your fight's fixed. You win if you don't quit. There's 4 stages of life. There's the stressing stage. If you quit during the stressing stage, you'll never get to the next 3. There's the stressing. But then you got to press through the stressing. You can't quit. There's the stressing. There's the pressing. And if you will fight through the stressing, and if you'll keep pressing, there will be a lesson. And then that lesson will produce the blessing. But if you quit during the stressing, you'll never get to the blessing. I need a volunteer that'll help me. And since Pastor Andrew did such a good job in the first service, I'm going to pick on him again in a second. Give Pastor Andrew, our great student pastor, a hand. Pastor Andrew, I just need you, if you will, to lay down on this bench. This weight represents the weights of life. How many know weight happens, right? Marriage, family, finances, your health, an unexpected report, whatever it might be. And I just need you, if you will, Pastor Andrew. Now, Pastor Andrew's already did this over 100 times in the first service, for real. So I asked him to do it 100 times. Pastor Andrew, if you could just do it 100 more times now, that'd be great. I told him I wouldn't do that to him, but I lied. So if you will, let's just go. Let's just count with them and see how many he can do. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. Come on, count. He's already getting tired. Cheer him on. He's doing it. How many is that? 20. He's counting. He knows how many. He's staying focused. Okay, so you see, this weight was light. It's not much for him. It's just 100 pounds. It's not much for him at first. But how many of you know, I don't care how strong and big and bad you are. I don't care what you're like, how many times you work out. Eventually, there's no amount of weight that you're not going to get tired of lifting eventually. Are you with me? How many? 22? 23? Oh. How many? You don't know. Leanne said you're on 18. 72? 73? Oh my gosh, he's about to do this too. Come on, guys, let's let him hear you. He's about to do this another 100. You got it. If you're online, give him a clap emoji. Come on. How many? 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. How many know he deserves a nice Outback gift card for this? Now, you're like, okay, big deal. Well, first of all, it's only 100 pounds. I mean, I'm not sure I could do it 200 times, but it's 25, 50, 80, yeah, about 95 to 100, about 100 pounds, right? For Pastor Andrew, I'm just going to tell you, I've worked out all my life. For Pastor Andrew, 100 pounds was nothing. He probably could have done that about 30 or 40 times with one arm. It's not that heavy. What makes it heavy is time. And you see, a lot of times people feel like that they can do it on their own. And you can for a season. I don't need church. Let's go to the lake. I don't need church. Let's go to the ball games. Nothing wrong with those things. I'm not picking on those things. I'm just saying, I don't need to read my Bible and pray. I'll spend time on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And, I'll trade my tithe in for vacation. Nothing wrong with vacations, and eventually, before long, what started out easy and you felt like you could do it on your own starts weighing on you, and it starts wearing you down. Now, Pastor Andrew, if you will, I wonder if you would just pick up those weights for me and if you would add them to the bar. Now, these weights are only 10 pounds. He's only adding 20 pounds to the bar. It's not a big deal. I mean, compared to 100 pounds, 20 pounds is not much. Are you with me? But what you don't know is he's already lifted 200, and then you did this however many times. So he's probably on the tune of about 250, 260 reps of weight already. And you see, life gets tough. It starts out and you feel like you got this thing. You don't need church. You don't need religion. You don't need Jesus. You don't need those things that spiritual people need. After all, you are a man you can do it on your own. You can for a season. But then you begin to add little weight to your bar. Would you mind just laying down and doing a few reps of those for me? Is there a bucket that he can okay. So now all he's done is added a little weight. Remember our scripture, Hebrews 12? Let us throw off the weight and the sin. Sometimes it's not sin, it's weight. Sometimes it's not a sin. Well, that's not sin, preacher. Yeah, but it could be a weight weighing your life down. Let's talk about those for a second. Some weights we bring on ourselves, and some weight we bring on because it's sin. Let's talk about the kids need braces. Well, the braces aren't the big deal. It's all of life you're already carrying. What's wrong? The weight is not much. 20-year-olds, 19-year-olds, they're going in college. You think you got to wait because you're trying to get to class, okay? You get out of college and you find out you quit. You feel okay about that? I'm just playing. I'm playing. Someone else. So here's the deal. Yeah, give him a hand. If you could only see spiritually, this is what you look like. We sweat, we're anxious, we're confused, we're stressed, we're worried. And watch this now, it's just little weight. But then you get out of college and you get you a job. You have responsibilities. Now you got to pay bills. Now you got a wife. And now you got kids, and now you got to get one of your teenagers a car. Well, it's not the car, it's all the other way. And then you get an unexpected, your car breaks down. Like I said before about our story when I first moved here, all hell broke loose against us, it felt like. And I was on 635 and had a blowout, and my father-in-law in his pickup truck came and got me, and I got in his truck and started crying a little bit. He's like, son, what are you crying about? It's just a flat tire. And I was like, it's not the flat tire. It's all of this, and now it's one little weight. So some weight we don't bring on ourselves. It's just life. And if you don't learn to carry to allow Jesus to help you carry this weight, then you've already created a system for your life. And now that's why the house crumbles, and that's why the life is such a disaster, because you have not learned to put him first before the storms come. Or it might be things you bring on yourself. It might be, well, it's just watching that movie that you know you shouldn't watch. And I'm not getting legalistic with you. I'm just saying it may be a little thing. And now you wonder why you're struggling with lust. And then you click on that site that you shouldn't really click on, but it's just a little thing. It's just one time. Now you wonder why you can't say no. And then you just take one drink. And it's not just the one drink. It's wondering why now you're an alcoholic and you just seem to have to, well, I could say no anytime. I could quit anytime. Then do it. Then do it. But it becomes a weight, and before long, it becomes bigger than you. Now, notice, you ain't got to lift no more weight. Notice who put that extra weight on the bar. A voice told him to put that weight on the bar, so he did it. And I've worked out all my life, and I have seen this over and over, and I've been the guy, especially the older I get. I'll see somebody else in the gym lifting that weight, and I'm like, well, I could do that. And then I forget that I'm 48, I ain't 18. And if I may have friends watching right now that would laugh at this, because then all of a sudden you start trying to lift weight like they're lifting, and you wonder why you hurt yourself. Okay, let's just break it down. You see that person with the fancy car, with the bigger home, with the expensive, nice vacations. Then you ring your credit card up, and now you're carrying weight that God never intended you to have to carry. But you made decisions to add weight to your bar that God never wanted you to add. Are you with me this morning? Sometimes it's the weight we add to our own bar that can take us out. But when, not if, but when the storms of life come, when the weight gets too heavy, because it may not be the first 100 reps, but I bet you a pizza that if I said lay down and do 100 more reps of this, he couldn't do it. Now, it's light as a feather at the beginning. I don't care how spiritual you are in here. If you don't have spotters around you, I want 3 spotters. I want let's see, who can I get here? I want Brandon. Come on up here with me, Brandon. You can be a spotter. Jeremy, you're going to be a spotter. And let's just go with Eric. Come on up here. You're going to be a spotter. I need 3 spotters, and I need Jeremy in the middle. Look at there. Jeremy's already being a brother. That's a good friend right there. So we're going to have spotters in our life. Because if we don't have spotters in our life, when, not if, when the weight gets too heavy, it's going to crash on you. Do we have that video? Do we have that video? Show this video. Listen. Before you this guy survived. Okay? Now, a guy right after him, about a week later, did this. He went straight to ICU and he died. But this is what happens when you try to lift weight too heavy without spotters. Now, he survived. How many know he wish he didn't survive? But he survived. I told you, about a week or 2 later, a man did this and went straight to ICU, and he died. Because it's a matter of life and death to have the right spotters around you when you have weight that's too heavy. It's life and death. It's not an option. So who are my spotters? Really quick. Number 1, Jesus has to be the center. Jesus has to be your number 1 spotter. He has to be that person. He said, cast all your cares on me, for I care for you. He said, come to me, Matthew 11, come to me, all you are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. I'll take my yoke upon you, and I know how to lighten your load. He said in Psalm 46, he's an ever-present help in the time of trouble. He said in Corinthians, my grace is sufficient for you, for when you are weak, I am strong, and I can be strong through you. So Jesus has to be a spotter. Number two, the local church has to be a spotter. The local church will push you to do things that you never thought you could do. And it's not to get anything from you, but it's to build you up and make you stronger. For example, the local church will push you and challenge you if you have the right church. To not just tell you the truth, but say, no, you need to serve in the house of God. No, you need to praise Him when you don't feel like it. No, you need to go to that gym or the church every blessed Sunday. No, you need to give your first 10%, your tithe, your finances. What is that doing? It's not because God needs something from us. It's not because you're helping the church. Certainly that helps the church with the mission, but it builds you up. Listen, that gym owner's not in there saying, do 2 or 3 more because he's getting anything out of it. No, when you go and you push weight that you never thought you could push, you get stronger than you ever thought you could be. Your family gets stronger. Your marriage gets stronger. Your finances get stronger. Your faith gets stronger. And your whole life gets stronger if the local church is active in your life. So we need Jesus. We need the local church. And finally, we need some bros. We need some friends, and you need the right ones. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Right voices, right choices. Proverbs says brothers are born in times of adversity. The right friends, the right voices. You know, there's nothing new under the sun. Do you know that? A lot of times you may think you're the only one that had that marriage problem. The enemy allowed us to say, man, I'm the only one that's had that situation. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, no temptation has besieged you, but that which is common to man. But God is faithful. Satan and hell's not throwing anything new at you. I promise you, somebody in this room has faced what you're facing. And here's the reality of it. We need the right brothers in our life. Come on, how many just give me just a couple more minutes, okay? The right friends, the right people in our life. Number one, we need a Paul in our life, an Apostle Paul. What's that? What's that about? Now, you're not Jesus anymore. Now you're the Apostle Paul, okay? Hope you enjoyed it while it lasted, but you're not Jesus. So the Apostle Paul was a teacher. Paul was an encourager. This is how you lift that weight, man. This is how you do it. Come on, you can do a little bit more. Yeah, you're doing so good. You know, man, you're looking good. You're doing better than you think you are. And you got that encourager in your life. Everybody needs an Apostle Paul, but then everybody needs a Timothy. You know why he needs a Timothy? Because Timothy was Paul's student. I studied and prepared a lot more this week than I did last week. Why? Because last week Sydney was preaching. I promise you, if I said, hey, I want you to give a 5-minute sermon, Rudy, next Sunday I want you to give a 5-minute sermon. You're going to pray, you're going to fast, you're going to seek God, you're going to read the Word. Why? Because you're trying to be sharp for someone else. Every man in this room, there's somebody you can help. There's somebody you can stay sharp for. And if he has a Timothy in his life, now he's got a reason to go to the gym. Now he's got a reason to keep pushing and not quitting. Come on, your Timothy might be your wife and kids. You have a reason to keep going and to keep pushing and keep pressing. And when you're not feeling it, you got to faith it. You have a reason. You have a Timothy. And then finally, everybody needs a Barnabas. What's that about? Well, Barnabas and Paul, if you study out their relationship, Barnabas honored Paul, but he wasn't afraid of Paul. Barnabas spoke truth into Paul's life. And he wasn't afraid to say, man, you're off here. I don't agree here. And you need a Barnabas, somebody that says, what do you mean you're not going to the gym today? Get your gym bag, put on your T-shirt and shorts. We're going to the gym. And then when things get tough, he don't need Paul. He needs Barnabas to say, what do you mean you can't do another rep? Come on, keep pushing. We got to have people like that. I'm not talking about judgment. I'm not talking about legalistic. But you need somebody that'll call you on the carpet for missing church. You need somebody to say, I know you ain't got to go to church to go to heaven, but yeah, I see a trend. I see, what were you doing at that bar the other night and you felt good enough to post about it? You're better than that. You need somebody in your life that's not afraid to lose you as a friend or tell you the truth. Why? Not to try to get you, but to try to get you somewhere. Thank you, gentlemen. Give all of these great fighters a hand. Last week, I was going through one of the more stressful times of my life, and especially the ministry. And I actually emailed one of my mentors in the middle of the night. And I said, I need to talk to you later on this afternoon if you got some time and when you get this tomorrow morning. And he responded. And I thought what I was going through was pretty serious. And it was. Still going through it a little bit. And he helped me. He coached me. He gave me some advice, gave me some thoughts. And about an hour goes by. And right before we hang up, he said, hey, man, do me a favor. Throw a few prayers up for me when you pray. And I'm like, what's going on? And he began to dive in and tell me everything he was going through. I immediately connected the dots. It wasn't about what I was going through. It was about me. He said right before I emailed him, in the middle of the night, his phone dinged with that email. And it was right when I emailed him was right after he said, Lord, just come get me. Come get me. He said, Pastor, I'm not even sure what that meant. I just knew that I couldn't go any farther. And then now we're on the phone, and I began to basically preach this sermon to him. And I realized at that point, it wasn't about where I was. It was about where I was going. In Mark chapter 5, somebody come to the music, thank you. Mark chapter 5, Jesus and the disciples are in a storm. And they get to the other side because anytime Jesus says you're going to make it to the side, you're going to make it to this. Let me just go ahead and tell you. Let me be Jesus with skin on for a second and just tell you you're going to make it to the side as long as you keep paddling, as long as you don't quit. You're going to make it to the other side. They got to the other side. And what's the first person that came to him? It was a demon possessed, if you remember. Nobody in the land, you read it, Mark 5, nobody in the land could heal that man, could deliver, could set that person free from that evil spirit. But Jesus and the disciples had been through the storm. Now type in shadow is my point here. The reason they couldn't help them is because they hadn't been through the storm. But brother, when you've been through the storm, you can do things that nobody else in the land can do. When you've been through a divorce, you can help somebody with that divorce. When you've been through a marriage struggle, when you've been through a financial situation, when you've been through something bigger than you, remember, it's not about you. It's about who you're going to help when you get to the other side. I want to break down very quickly the word push, the acronym, very quickly. I'm going to give you 5 ways to keep pushing, and I'm going to do it in about 60 seconds. Number 1, you got to pray until something happens. Ask, seek, knock, but you don't quit. You pray until something happens. Well, it's not be God's will. No, you're just lazy. Keep praying. Stay in faith. Keep talking to Jesus. Number 2, keep praising. Praise God. Praise until something happens. How many know we're geared to praise the negative more than the positive? If you had a headache, 22 people would already know it this morning. If the music was too loud, 18 people out in that foyer, you would have already told them. The negative, we're always geared to the... When's the last time you praised God that you didn't have a headache? When's the last time you thanked God that you did wake up this morning? I just do that. I'm just telling you, every morning, God, thank you for keeping me through the night. Thank you for keeping your hedge of protection around me and my family. I don't take that lightly. Praise Him until something happens. Perceive until something happens. Because as a man thinks, so is he. Your mentality is your reality. Perceive until something happens. Keep thinking right. Keep thinking right. Keep thinking right. And then you got to proclaim, not complain, proclaim until something happens. You possess what you confess. Life and death are in the power of your tongue. You've got to confess it if you want to possess it. Proclaim until something. Pray until something happens. Praise until something happens. Perceive until something happens. Proclaim until something happens. And finally, plant. Plant until something happens. I don't know I don't know how God's gonna fix this marriage, but I know the hand I'll be holding when I die. I don't know how God's going to turn this situation around, but I know where I'll be next Sunday. I don't know exactly what God is up to, but I do know I'm going to be praising Him all the way through it. I'm not going to quit. Quitting is not an option. Winners never quit. Quitters never win. You got to be like that bulldog and have bulldog tenacity and keep breathing and hold on and say, I will trust you. I will stay in faith. I will keep pressing. I will keep pushing. I will keep praying. I will keep praising. I will keep perceiving. I will keep proclaiming, and I will plant in the house of God. Psalm chapter 1 says, he that's planted in the house of God shall flourish in the courts of their God. That's Psalm 92. I'm sorry. Psalm chapter 1 says, like a tree planted by the waters, whatsoever things it does prospers. In every area of life, you cannot be successful quitting. You'll never have a healthy marriage quitting. You'll never have a healthy revenue of money coming in, and job and situation, and getting, if you're always jumping from job to job. You'll never have a healthy church experience if you're always hopping from church to church. You got to plant. And as you push, God absolutely will say, as you grow through what you go through, now I'm going to produce a breakthrough in your life. Stand to your feet all over this room. I finish with this. October 14th, 1947, Chuck Yeager did the impossible when he broke the sound barrier. Many men had tried to break the sound barrier before that, and they couldn't do it. They tried over and over, and they couldn't do it. Their testimony, and you can check me out on this, their testimony was every time we got to the speed of almost breaking the sound barrier, it felt like the whole cockpit was going to explode. It was sort of rattling. The vibration was more than you could imagine, and we just had to slow down. That actually happened to Chuck, I think, 5 or 6 times. Finally, he made up his mind. I'm going up, and that cockpit and that plane will explode before I quit. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep pressing, and then we'll just see what happens. He did, and the rest is history. You ask any woman, the greatest pain comes right before the final push. But it's after that final push comes the greatest prize. He said, I am a rewarder for those who will diligently seek me. That means I will intentionally not quit, and the reward comes right after the final push. Who am I talking to? My time is done. Who am I talking to?